Much.
Hi
everyone. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, can.
Okay, great. Just let me pull up Zoom. Okay, and you can see the ice breaking page, right? It has moved, right?
Yes, we can. For now.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I'm Kai Song. I will do a bit of introduction later, but let's maybe do a bit of ice breaking because it's a Thursday afternoon. You may be tired after school, so let's try to get everyone to be engaged before we start the session. So I will run you through a group of pictures later. If you could type in the chat, what's the first thing that came to mind, right? Like what's the emotion or what do you think the artist is trying to tell you in the picture as I show next? That would be great. And then we can see in the chat whether people have the same feeling or maybe you feel differently because sometimes images evoke different type of feelings. So let's get started. Okay, first picture, what do you feel? Waiting for you in the chat. Like what do you feel, right? What's the first thing you think of when you see this picture? Why is this a slow, torturous death? Yeah? Someone say it's happy. Joy, happy. Any other people that see things that is beyond happiness? Oh, someone read it as confusion. Maybe you're awkwardly trying to laugh to avoid the awkward situation. Someone hiding the sadness inside. Excited. Yeah. So you can see that sometimes images generate different type of feelings, right? The same picture for one person to see it might feel is pure happiness, but someone else might read it that it is sadness inside. This is what we are going to talk a bit more about in this session. But before that, we're going to go through to a bit more complex images, right? Like this one is just someone laughing. But you can also get very complicated images that has many different things going on. And the kind of feeling that you evoke might be different as well. So let's also try out some more complicated pictures. So what do you think when you see this image? You can type in the chat as well. Okay, someone says it's a very beautiful view. Loneliness. Someone see as lonely, someone see as brave, someone see as uncertainty, someone see as beauty, someone see it as darkness, some of you think it's exploration, isolation. Oh, a dark and a hopeful scene. So it has both the positive but also the negative. A man reflecting. Oh, depression, that's very dark. Yeah, so again, images could also have different type of things that would share the different types of feelings, and the author may have different messages to send, right? It doesn't need to be one only, like the previous one is quite simple. These two are actually AI generated art. So there's no actual like backstory to it, right? That's probably I wrote to get it out, but there is no kind of emotion that is coming out from a person. But for the next few pictures, I'm going to show you images, like famous images that were painted or created by artists around the world. You may have seen the picture before. You may not. It's all right. You don't have to be able to. You don't need to know the name of this picture. But then after you share your emotions that you feel after seeing the picture, I'm also going to share a bit about the backstory of why the artist drew that, right? The story behind the picture. So let's get started. Anyone see this picture before? And what do you feel when you see this picture? You have to send your feelings in the chat. Oh, someone say it's really fierce. Old school. You probably see in a lot of Japanese restaurants. Fresh. Salty because it's the sea. Tsunami, there's big tides. Japan is a piece of Japanese art. Oh, but Ezra saw that it's fishermen dying in a cruel way, symbolizing oppression. Very interesting. So yes, this is a famous painting from Japan. Yeah, it's a great wave painting. It's actually a print, so it's not painted on a canvas. It's from a long time ago, but it's being done using ancient printing techniques. And what the artist wants to showcase is that if you can see in the picture, there's 3 boats moving through a storm in the sea. So there's big waves, right? Because there is storm. So there is large cresting wave, which is what you can see on the left-hand side. And also you can see Mount Fuji visible in the background. So it's meant to be a very dramatic image. And the artist wants you to feel that the wave is alive. And you can feel the fear of the people in the boats. And it's kind of like a symbol of how powerful and unpredictable nature is compared to how small humans are. But of course, like what you all have written in the chat, people can see the different types of meaning in the wave, right? Some of you may see fear, some of you may see resilience, some of you may see its beauty, or even like metaphor for things, right? This is life being chaotic, this is stress and things like that. So that's the kind of story that the artist wants to portray. The next picture, have you seen this? This is also another very famous picture that I've seen personally in one of the museums. What do you feel and what do you think the artist is trying to tell you? Any comments? Yeah, someone said that it feels like a person screaming, a person feeling terrified. One of you said the person is having headache, scared, anxiety, afraid, shock, hallucination. Oh, why is that your teacher, Audelia? Does your teacher look very scary like that? The mentally deranged, shock, mesmerized. So this picture is called The Scream by Edvard Munch. I think he's a Norwegian person. So the backstory is that he has been walking out during sunset, and then suddenly he realized that the sunlight turned into a cloud of blood red color, as he wrote in one of the recollections. And at the moment in time, he sends an infinite scream passing through nature. So not just the screaming that he personally is doing in his mouth, but he sends his feeling as if like nature is screaming. So this is how he wrote about his picture. And scholars have been trying to figure out, right? Because I guess the sun does not turn the whole sky red. And they are trying to kind of explain why he's seeing it as blood red. And some of them think it may be effects of some form of a volcanic eruption behind, but the others interpret it as a psychological reaction by the artist, because his sister was just committed into a asylum. So the sister had some psychology issues and was sent into a lunatic asylum. So you can interpret him painting as having a mental and emotional breakdown. And some other scholars, they believe that this is maybe how it feels like having a panic attack, which is at that time when he painted might not be scientifically proven. So yeah, like again, like every great picture has a story behind, right? The story can be due to some personal experience, or it could be due to you seeing something in nature that you have a strong sense of emotion that you want to portray. You go to the next picture. I think a lot of you may have seen this picture as well. Yeah, Stephanie got it right. This is Van Gogh's famous Starry Night. What do you feel when you see this picture? Do you feel it's beautiful? Do you feel like what are the emotions that come about, or what do you think he's trying to portray? Nature is amazing. It's about stars. Yeah, we see a few stars. Diamonds. It's a night sky. Yeah, some of you say it's beautiful. Some of you interpret it as like being small in a vast universe. Someone thinks it's chaotic. Someone thinks it's like there's dark, but there is also light. So you can see, right, this is not a typical, here is some moons and here is some stars. It's being drawn in like a very, there's a lot of lines, it's kind of distorted. And the backstory of it is that Van Gogh was painting it inside a mental hospital in France. So he had just checked himself in, so he wasn't sent to a hospital. He knew he had some mental problems and needed to go seek treatment, just like how you go to a hospital. So he went to this mental health hospital, and at that point, he has already cut off part of his ears. So that's how seriously he is kind of sick. And from his hospital room, he could see the hills and trees through his window, but he didn't really paint what he saw, right? Which is just whatever that you see, the stars, the light, the moon and things. He painted what he felt at that point, having struggled from mental health issues, how things are being distorted. And this is kind of like why the painting became famous as well, right? Like if I just go out there and paint like the sky, then there's not much kind of like meaning and story behind it. But because Van Gogh had kind of more meaning around the picture, then it became one of the masterpieces of the work, because it portrays kind of the complex feeling he felt by looking at the sky through a mental health hospital. So this session, we will talk a bit more about how you can story tell about the picture that you generated, because as part of the submission, you not just need to generate an image, but you also need to submit some of the thought process behind it, including what was your inspiration and how it leads to the team. So before we get started, let me introduce myself. I'm from Hyperbyte AI. We build programs for ambitious youths in Southeast Asia. So think of it, right? Like, are you someone who's aiming to study in a top university one day, get into a competitive role in tech, such as in Facebook, Amazon, consulting, investment banking, and you really want opportunities to stand out from your peers? We were students like you. We are the keen in school. When our friends spend their weekend playing computer games, we join competitions. We were hungry for opportunities to build projects, join research teams, do internships. And we understand the pain of figuring it out ourselves, constantly feeling stressed whether I'm missing out on opportunities that I've not heard about. And this is why we built programs that we wish we had when we were 16 years old that can set you apart. We are graduates from top universities ourselves and got into competitive roles, so we understand how competitive it is on the global stage and what is required to be there. We currently have 3 different programs. The first is a AI and tech innovation program, where you learn about tech and AI, build prototypes to solve real-world problems and pitch it to senior industry experts. We also have a AI mastery program, which is college-level AI programs, where you learn about complicated topics like recurrent neural networks. And finally, we have a one-to-one mentorship program, which is a structured university-style research program process that will lead you publishing a paper. Students that have attended our program last year have received offers from top universities, including Cambridge, Imperial in the UK, NUS in Singapore, Cornell and Berkeley in the US. The students gave really good feedback. The student that is going to Cornell mentioned that the bootcamp really gave him a way better idea of what AI is, and he could demonstrate that as part of his application to a competitive university. So if you are interested to learn a bit more about Hyperbyte, here's a QR code that you can scan. You can go to our website and check out some of the programs that we offer. You can also WhatsApp us at the number below, which is the number that has been replying to your questions in the NAIC WhatsApp group as well. So feel free to ask us any questions that you have about our programs. So this is what we are going to cover in our session today. We'll talk about what is inclusivity and what is sustainability, because this is the theme that you have to create the image on. We will also talk about frameworks to tell a good story. We'll touch on tips for the competition, and then finally get to the Q&A, where you can ask any burning questions that you have, given that this is going to be the last masterclass, right? So this is the last opportunity for you to ask any questions that you want us to answer directly. So for 2025, Malaysia is the ASEAN chairman. So and they have launched the theme for the ASEAN theme for 2025, which is inclusivity and sustainability. And this is the topic that you have to generate your art on for the competition as well. Because this is a 2025 competition, so we have selected the ASEAN theme to go with it. So what is ASEAN? Anyone has heard about what is ASEAN? You want to thumbs up, like you want to emoji on the screen if you have heard about ASEAN before? Or is this the first time you heard about it? Okay, so ASEAN is a association of Southeast Asian nations, as one of your the participants A has rightly pointed out. So there is a group of 10 countries that has come together because you want to have more negotiating power, right? When you have 10 countries, you have 600 million population. As a bloc with 600 million population, you are the 3rd largest kind of population group, right, behind China and India in the world. In the European Union, it's another bloc, right, where all the European countries come together. So this allows you to negotiate for better economic opportunities, and also to facilitate cooperation between the 10 members. So some of the members include Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and a few others, Vietnam and a few others as part of the ASEAN region. So let's discuss what inclusivity means and what sustainability means, right? Which is the theme for the ASEAN this year. So I want you to type in the chat, right? Do you think there's anything wrong with this image? Yeah, the fingers might look slightly awkward. I mean, this is AI generated. So yeah, like maybe fingers, yeah, expressions are the same. But aside from the small features like fingers and all, right? Like why, is there anything like, what's is there any similarity between all these people? Yeah, they wear the same clothes. Yeah, I think Anjali mentioned that they're all gents. Who do you see, right, in this picture? They're all white. They're all males. And this is like a similar, like this could be how a boardroom what looks like, right? Like when important discussions about companies and things, if this picture is being put on the business website about our company, then who do you see, right? You see the same kind of people. They're all white, they're all male. And that also means that there is many types of people and cultures that are not being represented in the picture. So if you want to kind of work in the company, you will be like, is this the right place for me, right? Like maybe I'm Asian, I'm not white. Maybe I'm a female, I'm not a male guy. So like there's nothing wrong like about the situation, but because maybe some companies do have all white male men as the leaders of the company. However, if all the pictures and things about bosses are about white male people, then it doesn't help. The kind of message that it sends from a company's perspective is that yeah, like maybe for you to get to this top position, you need to have a certain skin color, you need to be born from a certain place, which may not help with diversity. And as part of the theme of inclusivity, there are actually many dimensions to it, right? It's not just male versus female, not just whether they are white or they are Asian. There is also other kind of dimensions that you can think about, whether people is from the same religion, people from the same nationality. ASEAN, we have people from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Thailand. How do we include everyone as part of the conversation? Do we include people that are disabled or people that are neurodivergent? Because the whole theme about inclusivity is that you want people to feel welcome regardless of which group they belong to and whether you are different from that person. Because you are opening to build that understanding of each other, right? Maybe I am different from you. I grow up in Malaysia, you grow up in Thailand, you speak Thai, I speak Malay, but how do I make myself be more open to understand your experiences and also to break down any stereotypes and also biases? So I cannot be like, oh, this country or this race or this religion, these people are like that one. Like I don't like them because of X. Because everyone is also still different, right? Even if you belong to a specific group, those are just stereotypes towards a group. And to be inclusive means that we want to build understanding rather than be surrounded by our own bias and also stereotypes. So I want to do a small activity next where I want to get 2 volunteers, right, to unmute yourself and to share share about a good friend that you have that is different from you. And as I mentioned before, there's many dimensions to being different. It doesn't need to be the typical dimensions. It can be any kind of ways of differences, right? And maybe share a bit more about like how you're, still become really good friends despite the differences. Anyone want to unmute yourself and say a few things? Or if you're really shy, like feel free to type in the chat as well. I'll give you a few minutes to think about a friend. No one ever have a friend that's different from them. You only make friends with people that is exactly the same with you, is it? Yeah, Norbert, you want to share about your Muslim friend? Okay, still typing. Yeah, it can be different dimensions, right? Like Eunice, you said that maybe you are introverted and your friend is extroverted. I think that is also inclusivity, right? Like if you have a group of friends that are sitting at the table, how do you make sure that the introverted person still feel comfortable and the extroverted person gets to speak his or her mind? Yeah, you can share different like preferences in life and you can still be good friends around it, right? Like if you like you like to go on holiday, the person likes to read books. I think that is also that, right? But it's just I think the theme about inclusivity is also on how do you make sure that the person feels comfortable and you open up to learn more about each other. Any other, I see, yeah, some of you talk about wheelchair bounded friends. Thanks for sharing that. One of my best friends personally is also wheelchair bound. So how do I ensure inclusivity is that when we meet up, I shouldn't propose something where I know that it requires walking upstairs and things, right? So if I want to go to a restaurant with my wheelchair bound friend, I will call the restaurant beforehand and check whether this is a flat ground where her wheelchair can enter, for example, so that she doesn't get to the place and then realize that she can't get up and then she would feel not included from the activity. Anyone wants to share? Anyone has like wrote something and wants to share like using your mic as well? I'm happy to. Yeah, I saw that Pavitra said that you have two friends. One is Punjabi and one is Chinese, and you are Indian. So you all speak different languages and you also learn languages from each other. I think that's really great. Stephanie said that your best friend is not the same gender, but you don't argue about things. Some of you have Vietnamese friends. Any other people still typing? Yeah, your Muslim friend is half Malay now. Oh, and then she teaches you some of the phrases. I think that's really great. So that's your inclusivity in terms of languages, right? So sometimes when you get, let's say you are in a conversation, I used to study in the United Kingdom. So a lot of my friends come from different places. I have a Sri Lankan friend. I have a Bangladeshi friend. I have also mainland Chinese friends as well. So always in conversations, even though I can speak Mandarin. I would make sure that I do not speak Mandarin to my mainland Chinese friends, and also I don't speak Malay to my Malaysian friends, right? Because then my other friends wouldn't be able to understand and in the same conversation. Then they don't feel very included. So we always pick a language that all of us can speak, which in the case is English, to ensure inclusivity among all of the people on the table. I love some of you saying that you bring different types of food to share. And I guess like when you bring food to share, the way to be inclusive is that you respect other people's culture and religion, right? Like there are certain people that don't eat certain type of meat, or some people may be vegan, some people might be vegetarian. You ensure that you do not disrespect the person's practices as well. Valerie mentioned that she has a close friend from Vietnam, but although despite the language barrier, you all still update each other without judging each other. I think that's really great. And I guess Olivia has a friend in Japanese. So yeah, I think that's really great. I think all of you have many diverse experiences and also friends, which is the kind of thing that you should be thinking about on the team, right, of inclusivity. How can you generate an image where you feel that you included all these different people's experiences within it? And then now that you have done a bit of personal reflection about the inclusivity within your own life, let me show you some examples of inclusivity in media and arts. So I'm going to show you things that are like non-pictures, not video. This could be video, this could be sculptures and stuff, so that I don't affect how you generate the images, right? So yeah, let me show you some examples. So this is a video that I really like. It's by Nike, where it showcases the different type of athletes in the world. This was being shot during the pandemic. So let me share the sound and I will play it for you.
We're never alone. And that is our strength. Because when we're doubted, we'll play as one. When we're held back, we'll go farther and harder. If we're not taken seriously, we'll prove that wrong. And if we don't fit the sport, we'll change the sport. We know things won't always go our way.
And the world's sporting events are postponed or cancelled.
But whatever it is, we'll find a way. And when things aren't fair, we'll come together for change.
We have a responsibility
to make this world a better place.
And no matter how bad it gets, we will always come back stronger. Because nothing can stop what we can do together.
Yeah, so this is an example of showing inclusivity in media. This is created by Nike, one of their campaigns during the pandemic. There's also a film by Pixar. So Pixar is the very famous animation studio that have created things like Inside Out, Toy Story. So they have also created this short film called Loop. I'm not going to show it to you because it's about 15 minutes long, but it's about a non-verbal autistic girl. So she doesn't speak. And then also a chatty boy learning to understand each other as they are on a boat together. Feel free to take a look at the video during your free time. But this is another example of showing diversity in the world. But specific for the competition, You do not need to show diversity from every single dimensions in the world, right? Because as we kind of identified earlier, there's just so many different dimensions. So I would encourage you to find a specific angle that you feel passionate about, and you are able to explain why you feel passionate about that specific angle as part of your written submission. And yeah, like we are not gonna, it's not a counting problem, right? Where like, oh, you show 3 dimensions, you show 5, or the 5 will win kind of thing, right? Is who can come up with an art piece that is most impactful in showcasing that element of inclusivity, and also who can explain about why they picked that team in the most impactful way. So now that we have covered inclusivity, we would like to move on to sustainability, which is the second part of the theme that we were talking about earlier for ASEAN. Yeah. So these are just some kind of starting to why sustainability is very important, right? Look at the pictures. What do you see? Sorry, just give me 1 sec. Let me just share my screen. Because yes, disappeared. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Yes, but now it should be back on. Yeah, take a look at some of the pictures. What do you think and what do you feel? You can type it in the chat. Environmental damage, pollution, some effects and consequences if our country is not taken care of. Climate change, flood, some of you feel really sad. Yeah, so on the top left side, you see fast fashion, right? Where you buy very cheap shirts, you wear it once, and then you're like, I don't like it anymore. It's no longer fashionable. Let me throw away. And it just sits in landfill, right? Because everyone is like, I throw 5 shirts, you throw 5 shirts, and then like suddenly you have a lot, like millions of shirts in the landfill. And it's also costing the planet a lot of things. And that's polluting the rivers because that is the textile dyes from the clothes. It is also taking up a lot of space in landfills. And this is not sustainable, right? Where we need to ask ourselves, like, do we really need more clothes? Or can we choose to be better? Can we choose to rewear them? Or can we choose to recycle our clothes, right? Like when I no longer like it, can I sell it to a thrift shop so someone else can buy it? So that we do not waste so much materials in the world. And then you can also see a lot of pollution due to plastic packaging. We throw away our bubble tea cups, we throw away our plastic bags, our straws, and all these things like multiply by like, it just happens every single day. There's millions of cups being thrown. And all these ends up either in landfills or also the ocean. And because plastic takes many, many years to break down, it will still be there, right, for the years to come, where marine animals like turtles and fish will mistake it for food. And also when they eat it, then you have microplastics in your food, right? And this will not be good for your health as well. So it's not sustainable because not just we pollute the environment, but also we cause issues to our health in the future if we have polluted water and if we are eating fish and also shrimps and any sea animals that are infested with microplastics. Deforestation, you probably heard about it. As you cut down trees, there's less trees to create oxygen from taking in the carbon dioxide, which means that the climate is also changing, the temperature is rising. And then the last one is more of the implications, right? But because of all these different things, that is increased flooding. You probably see a lot of floods happening, right? You see really in the news like this flooding, and not just in very rural area where they don't have good pipings and all these things. Nowadays, even urban areas have a lot of flooding. Because of all these unsustainable developments, we are building a lot of new things, and we are also there is also like rising sea levels and things like that. So the whole theme of sustainability is really to encourage everyone to think about how we can meet today's needs, because we still want comfortable life today. We do not want to, we still want, maybe we want to drink things from plastics and stuff like that occasionally. But how do we meet today's needs without messing up the future? Because humans want to continue living on Earth for the many years to come, right? Yourself, you want to grow old in an Earth that is still safe and clean. And you may also want to have children, grandchildren. So we cannot mess it up for the future, right? We cannot have like suddenly the Earth is too warm, we can't live anymore. It cannot be water is too dirty with pollution. We can't have clean access to it. So it's really about how we live, what we use, and what we leave behind for the people and the planet. So these are some examples of things that you can think about when it comes to sustainability, right? It can be about replanting trees. It can be about recycling campaigns. If you know about carbon management and carbon accounting, so right now, if you are a public listed company in Malaysia, you will need to report how much carbon are you generating as part of your operations. Like you have a factory, you cause a lot of carbon to be released to the world. You will have to then the carbon tax or to purchase carbon credits, right? And carbon credits could be on replanting trees and things like that. There is also green energy. So there is a green energy in Malaysia right now as part of the energy transition. The government would like to get to 70% sustainable energy by 2050. When it comes to sustainable energy, it means that these are things like solar panel, hydroelectric. These could be on biomass and things like that, instead of burning more coal, more petrol for your energy. All these things require some form of incentives, but also requires mass implementation, right? Like if you have a factory, the government will be finding ways for you to start putting on maybe solar panels on your rooftop. And also there is also like a shift towards buying electric vehicles, and things like these are also great ways to keep the planet more sustainable. And here are some examples in media and art on sustainability. So this is a Singaporean artist. I think her name is like Tan Zizi or something. I don't remember her name exactly. But this is an iconic plastic ocean installation, which consisted of more than 2,000 pieces of plastic waste suspended from a ceiling. So she collected about 500 kilo of discarded ocean plastic, whatever that people throw into the sea, and put it as part of an art exhibition. So the visitors can walk underneath the plastic to cause the person to feel that sense of suffocation. Like, oh my God, this is so like, I feel stuck. Like, why am I surrounded by so much plastic, right? And it's an effective art because it is emotional. Like you feel that, oh, I don't want to be surrounded by so much rubbish. But also experiential, right? Where you feel that you're part of it. It's not just like a picture. People can just like feel it together with like seeing it. So one of the things that you could think about is when you are generating this art piece, how can your art make people feel that urgency about the environmental problem? How do you make that person feel that I need to take action today? Like, oh no, like, I cannot stand this anymore, right? And that will be a good way for you to showcase that sustainability angle. This is another example. So in 1982, this artist Dennis planted a 2-acre wheat field on a landfill. Landfill is basically the rubbish dump, right? Near New York City. So if you see the background, and this picture is not AI generated, it's from 1982. If you see the background, the skyscrapers, they are all from the New York City. But she decided to plant a wheat field. And what she wants to showcase is that the golden wheat to be in contrast to the surrounding skyscrapers. So again, another kind of prompt for you to think about is there any kind of contrast that you could showcase in your artwork, right? Like maybe before, after pollution, or something that is, oh, it could be green, but then this is the current situation where it's very dirty and all that. What are some of these contrasts that you can also potentially portray? This is a third one. This is by El Natsui. It's a recycled metal tapestry where the artist used discarded bottle caps and metal scrapes to create this giant flowing sculpture that resemble cloth. So it turns waste into beauty and getting people to interact with it. As I mentioned earlier, I showed you pictures of sculptures and also videos because I do not want to kind of give you a sense of like, oh, my art must look like this, right? But these are meant to kind of inspire you on the different types of angles that you could think about when it comes to thinking through the different angles that you can for your art to be generated. Cool. So now we can get to the third section, which is how do you tell a good story? So earlier, we were focusing a lot on how do we use art to generate that emotion. When people see your art, they either feel shocked, they feel like disgusted by the pollution, they feel the contrast, they are wowed by a certain factor. You need to generate that kind of emotion, right, for people to catch your attention to the art that you generate. But the second part of the evaluation is the story that you tell with it. If you go to the submission form, you will see that you will need to also write about the inspiration behind it and how it connects with the team. So we are just going to talk through a few different ways for you to think through the story around your art. I'll share you 2 different frameworks that are commonly used to tell good stories. So the first one is called the hero's journey, where a lot of the movies and the books would follow this framework of, okay, ordinary world is where you start, right, at the top. You are called to an adventure. So in a story, right, like think of a famous story, let's say Harry Potter. So every day I'm sitting in the cupboard below the staircase, then called to adventure. One day Hagrid turns up. I refuse the call, then I'm just like, oh, I don't want because I'm scared and all these things. And then eventually I step up to it and I see some mentors. I cross the first threshold, so this is usually like the first challenge. And then there will be some enemies and like some tests that I have to pass through. Eventually I get into some innermost like cave where I have to fight, like just like when Harry Potter had to fight through some of the past trauma and the struggles. Eventually getting to the ordeal and the reward. And then finally you kind of go back to the loop of now then you get back kind of thing, right? If you to close off to where you are from the ordinary world, where the world goes back to normal. So this is like a framework that you could think about. So example is that you kind of want to share your inspiration, right, on how how does the whole thing kind of unveils, right? From on a normal day, you never thought about this, but then how did you then kind of got into this area that you are passionate about? How did you get inspired about this thing? What are some of the actions that you may have took? How did this action turn it into some form of emotion and things like that, right? So this is just a good kind of storytelling framework so that your story is interesting rather than like, oh, every day this is what happens. There needs to be a bit of an up and down. There's a kind of climax to like fighting some of these ordeals and all. Then this is a very similar kind of structure, but this is by Pixar. So again, there is a beginning, which is once upon a time, every day, something happens, like on and on, on and on. But one day, something out of the ordinary happened, right? So maybe something inspired you one day. Maybe a teacher told you something. Maybe you read something in a book. Maybe you saw a news. And because of that, X happened. So once the thing in number 2 happened, it led you to do what? Because of that, Y happened, and because of that, Z happened. Until finally, there will be some form of a big change. And then ever since the big change, something happened. And then eventually, the world goes back to normal. So this is again, some form of a storytelling framework that can engage the audience to continue reading your story, right? Because it kind of like builds up from like something happened. Oh, okay, more things happen. And then finally there'll be a big change. And then eventually you go back to the new normal. So these are 2 kind of storytelling frameworks that you could think about when sharing about your inspiration and your story associated with your art. And then finally, we are going to go through some tips for the competition. So I want to address what is a process diagram, right? But before we go into it, let me recap, right? There are 3 things that you will need to submit for the AI generated track. The first thing is you have to generate an art that goes on an A3 piece. The second thing is that you have to upload a process diagram. And the third thing is that there is a few different questions in the Google form that you just have to type to answer it. So in the last masterclass, the other mentor Jay has already talked you through the different questions and example submission answers in the Google form. So today I will share a bit more on how you answer that process diagram as well as your generated art. So let me switch to the process diagram. So this is the example of a process diagram. So it's very important to show us what you did and what are the different steps that led you to the final A3 picture that you submitted. And the document should capture the steps in detail, right? Where you write down things like the prompt that you use, the tool that you use, and also some explanation on why you use those prompts. You can make the document to look something like this, where there's a picture on the left and there's some text on the right. But it's not being we are not restricting it. You can also put the picture on the top, the text on the bottom, whichever format that you feel most comfortable with. Eventually you have to save it as a PDF, so we also do not mind if you use PowerPoint, you use a Word document, you use Canva or like Pages, any type of tools for you to generate it, as long as eventually you submit it as a PDF. This is just a reference process diagram. Your process diagram does not need to be 4 steps only. You can have 10 steps, you can have 50 steps. You can decide how many steps you want to show, because this is basically your pathway to the image, right? Some of you may generate it and you think you're happy with it. Some of you may make different iterations before you get to the final art piece. So like 4 is just like a reference number. You do not need to be 4 only. You can have 10, you can have 20. So example, this is the guidebook, right, which you will be able to refer to it has been sent together with the confirmation of your participation, so you will be able to look at it later yourself too. So you you can talk about how you initially generated the first piece of art. You will talk about the tools that you use. In this case, I use DALL-E. I also use the prompt, a dodo bird telling a story, etc. And I may have 10 images. I selected the best that match it. I needed more emotion because the dodo bird doesn't seem to be looking here. No eyes in the first picture. So I made some minor edits to add a teary eye effect. You do not need to use only one tool to achieve it. You can say that I use DALL-E to generate the bird, right? But the eyes, I don't like it. I went to Canva, I edit it. I find new eyes, I paste the eyes there. Yeah, you can do that also. Like you can combine the different types of tools, right? It's not just using one tool. You can also say that I like the dodo bird, but I don't like the sun. So I went to ChatGPT instead, and I generated a sun, and then I combined this sun with the dodo bird picture. You can also do that. So really, the canvas is yours, right? You can explain how you want to do it in any ways, as long as we understand your process. Then after that, you kind of continue talking about what you change, right? You change details of the original bird. You may change the style. So styles are like, is this a watercolor, or is this like a photography kind of style, or is this like an anime? Is this Studio Ghibli style? So there are different styles that you could try out as well. If you try out different styles and eventually pick one, please also write it down as part of your submission, so that we also know the steps that you took to the final outcome that you have. And then eventually, if you refine features, if you use Canva to like edit certain things, you change the contrast, change the saturation and stuff like that, all these are allowed as long as you list it down clearly in the process diagram. And then eventually you have a final one that you submit. I know this process diagram may have some questions, so I'm going to run through a few more tips, but after that, I will let you ask some questions before I go through to the image that you have to generate and submit. So here are some tips on writing a good process diagram. First of all, be specific. Don't write something general like use AI to generate image and put the image, right? Because then we don't know how you generate. Be specific on what AI you use. You use ChatGPT, you use Midjourney, you use DALL-E, you use Google Gemini, and what was the prompt, the exact prompt that you put into the tool. If you use like different tools such as Canva, then be specific about, oh, I use the color saturation feature to update it. Then the second part is also explain why you did that, right? So now that you are very specific on your step-by-step, what you actually do, tell us why you did that thing. Is it because it, like ChatGPT cannot generate the person in the same like emotion as you want? Or is it because you prefer something else that came from another tool? Like, why did you pick A over B? And you can also write about decisions that are not AI, your AI generated art related, right? Like, I got feedback from 5 of my friends, and then all of them tell me that this picture feels really happy. But the emotion I want to showcase is sad. Then no choice, right? Like, I have to like do these other 5 edits in order to get to a picture that has a sad emotion. So these can also be one of the things that you write down to explain your decision about it, because it's still part of the process, even though it's not something you type into ChatGPT. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, you are allowed to combine different tools and techniques. All the different tools do different things well. For example, if you want to do like different layouts, it will be really challenging for you to say, ChatGPT, move this person by 2 centimeters on the right-hand side. They might create another image, but the person looks completely different already, because ChatGPT is not very good at moving things by like a certain amount on a page. But Canva may be really good at doing it. because Canva, you can very easily move things around, right? Like different characters, different like pictures, you can join them together. So you could potentially choose ChatGPT to generate your different characters, but use Canva to join them up together in the positions that you want. So you can use all of these things to give you the best outcome. I'm going to pause here for a bit before we go into the picture generation to answer any questions you may have about the process diagram. So I think a participant asked whether you can create an artwork that has sensitive content. I think it depends on what you mean by sensitive content. In the guidebook we did, and also in the first masterclass, we did mention that you are not allowed to generate things that are illegal. You are not allowed to, let's say, use your friends' faces and generate things without their permission. So there are certain things that you are not allowed to do if this is what you count as sensitive content. But yeah, I think it depends really on your definition, right? If you want to talk about like a disease and like there's people that looks like really hungry because like they are all sick and stuff, like yeah, like it may look very gory and scary, but then you will be able to do that, right? As long as it fits in the theme of inclusivity and sustainability. If you generate some image that has nothing to do with inclusivity and sustainability, like two monsters fighting and you cannot explain why it links to that, then I mean we will still accept that submission, but we wouldn't like bring you to the final because it does not meet the theme of the competition, which is inclusivity and sustainability. Yeah, you are allowed to use Canva to put together a picture of what you want to generate and use that as a prompt. Yes, you can do anything like that. But please just write it down in your process diagram, right? Like this is the picture I put in Canva that I downloaded and put into, let's say, ChatGPT as your AI. But again, like make sure you do not use anybody's copyrighted materials as part of the generation of the art. So make sure that you use images that are of like royalty free. And if you are using any real human faces, make sure you have explicit consent from those people. Yes, you can use image as the base and also add other images from other AIs and also Canva. Again, you will not be able to add like other images that are copyrighted or you just found on Google, right? But you can generate other characters and join them to your base image. Yes, that's allowed. Any other questions on the process diagram? Yeah, so I think that's a good question about whether you need to include both teams. You can decide whether you want to show both teams or just one of the teams and which angle of each of the teams. You are not given more score because you hit more boxes, right? Like because like Alex did inclusivity and sustainability in the same picture, while like I don't know, Beatrice didn't do that, then I will give Alex more score because you did 2, I give you 2 points, you did 1, I give you 1 point. The point system is not by how many boxes you check, but how like whether it evokes the emotion that you want to for the viewer, as well as the inspiration and the story behind the artwork. So you can find a really specific angle within one of the teams and then generate an art that is very impressive in that specific angle. That is perfectly fine. Like you wouldn't be penalized because you did not cover another team. However, if you do not cover any of the teams, right, like inclusivity and sustainability both also don't work, then yeah, we wouldn't be able to proceed you to the final round for sure, right? That will be, you'll be disqualified because you are not following the team that we have generated. Any other questions? I'm just gonna wait for like 2 more minutes for people to type. Yes, you are allowed to draw your image on, let's say, paper and give it to AI as a prompt. Just put it in as part of your process diagram, right? This is the sketch I did on hand. I sketch it this way because of like XYZ reason. After I put this sketch into the prompt, this is what the AI generated. I like it because of X, but I don't like it because of Y. I went and do this edit so that Y can be updated into the way that I like. So this is the kind of like process that you would go through. You can try to give like a really detailed drawing to like ChatGPT. I don't think it will be able to generate it exactly as you want anyway. So yeah, I would recommend you to like you if you draw like tiny things and you send it to ChatGPT, is most likely not being able to generate it the way that you want. I don't quite understand your question, Diwashini. Like, what do you mean by things that you should be concerned about? Okay, let's go through what the picture generation would look like. So the main point I want to make is that the A3 canvas is yours. So think of the A3 canvas paper, and it's, I have a background, right? So it's two A4 paper joined together, that becomes an A3 canvas. That's how big your paper would have when you go to the final. And we will of course be evaluating based on the same judging criteria, because like if it doesn't work for the final, then we won't be inviting you to the final if it's too big, too small, and things like that. So it should be an A3 canvas. You can do anything you want as long as you can see in A3 size. So to give you some examples, it can be an illustration. Illustration is just like a simple photo, right? That you have. You can make it an infographic, where there is information, there's text or like anything on it to tell, like it could be an infographic about like why polluting the environment is not sustainable, and then you put some information on it. You can make a comic strip, so there may be a story associated with it. So yeah, the earth is dying in like high temperature because of pollution. A warrior came and saved the world, and there is a comic strip. You can make a split, you can put two images on the same picture, before and after, or like if there is pollution that will continue happening, this is where the sea level will be, and things like that. You can make a collage where you have multiple images as long as they say like they fit in the same story. You can make a poster as well, relating to either inclusivity or sustainability. And then yeah, finally, basically like the point I want to make is that you don't have to think of it as like this is a picture, right? Like one picture where there's many different things. You can also use the different styles such as collage, comic strip, split image, posters, infographic, and every other thing that you think that can best portray the message that you want, the emotions that your readers will feel, and the inspiration that you have for the art. Like you think that's the best way to showcase that image, like go for that choice, right? Rather than just having one single image. So that's all that I wanted to share. I'm going to leave the remaining of the time for Q&A. Feel free to type your questions in the chat. It can be about the process diagram, it can be about image generation, it can also be about any other things you have on the AI competition. Yeah, so to answer the anonymous participant in the Q&A, who asked, is the infographic applicable for our process diagram? So I think these are two different things, right? The process diagram explains your methodology to getting to the final image. Your final image can be anything. It can be an infographic, it can be a comic, it could be one simple image that's like, wow, like very impressive. It can be like a collage of small images. It can also be two images split together, or like a before after, like any form, right, that you feel that works. The process diagram would basically explain how to get there. Any other questions? We'll wait for questions for about like 2 or 3 minutes, and then if we have none, then we'll let everyone go. The final due date is on the 24th of May. Do we need to edit the process diagram depending on the process diagram you just shared with us? So then it's just an example of process diagram, right? Is to help you understand what a process diagram means. Your process diagram, as I mentioned earlier, can be of as many steps as possible, and you can explain the details in any ways that you want. So don't edit that, right? Just tell us how you came to your final art through a process diagram. The example is to help you just know what it is. Yes, the picture can be portrait or the picture can be landscape. It doesn't matter. So we are to answer the question on how do you change your picture in A3 size, right? When you save if it's not in A3 size, it is fine. However, like we need to know that when when the judges are looking at it, they will be thinking, right, if this is being printed in A3 size, which is like 2 A4 papers joined together, is it too small to see and stuff? Like you cannot put a collage as tiny things that you can't see, right? If that's the case, then we wouldn't proceed you to the final. However, if you can't save in a A3 exactly like the measurements, I think that is fine. I believe that in the NAIC booklet, there is some instructions on what is the minimum pixel and also resolutions for your art. So please refer to that on the minimum like resolutions. I do not know it at the top of my head. So if you think that saving the earth is related to sustainability, then you can use that as part of the theme. But again, it's up to your interpretation, and then you have to explain it as part of your written submission in the Google form. In the final stage, there is gonna be the art being showed up, but you will need to do a presentation on your process diagram as well as your inspiration and also how your art connects to the team that you wrote it inside your Google Form submission. So basically, in the final, all the written stuff, right, like all the documents that you write, like your process diagram and things, we wouldn't be printing it out and then posting it there. You only post the art, but because you are in person, the judges will walk to your booth and you have like a set amount of time where you will be able to explain everything that you have written to the judges, but verbally. There is no maximum number of pictures you are allowed in the process diagram. However, your process diagram will need to be kept within 15 pages. Please make sure that, of course, like you cannot be like, I want to make it 15 pages, I make it font size 2 and like the picture so small cannot see lah. Like it needs to be a sensible size that the judges will be able to see. So think of it as at least like 10 to 12 font size and the picture at least like the square that you'll be able to see on normal laptop PDF. Yeah, so there's no limit on how many steps you want. But one thing I want to let you know is that editing more doesn't mean your picture becomes better and better, right? You might get to a stage where your picture looks already good. It explains what you have in your mind in terms of the idea, the message. Then you don't need to edit it, right? It's not a counting problem again. We are not going to be like, oh, A has 10 steps, B has 20 steps. Sure, B's picture is better. We'll look at the picture and see, okay, A's picture is better than B, although you get there in 10 steps. And then when you evaluate, the process diagram is about evaluating whether you clearly explain how you got there. The scoring criteria can be found in the NAIC booklet that we send together with your confirmation email. So do check out the booklet. So in the final, we have not decided whether you will bring the art onto a stage where the judges sit, or whether we will get the judges to come to your art. So we have not decided the exact format yet. We will let you know when you are selected for the final. Any other questions? Yeah, so the question on, is it okay to do images in the process diagram, and another one as the final one. So everyone has to submit 3 different things, right? As I mentioned earlier. One is your Google form. There are a few questions that you have to answer. Secondly, you have to generate an image that we believe is visible and you can print on a A3 size. It will still be like you will still be able to see everything on it. And the third thing is a PDF document that is a process diagram. So your process diagram should be linked to your final image where it explains the steps to get there. Is there any other questions? How to change the final art to the exact pixels required. This depends a lot on what kind of platform you are on. I would suggest you to Google it, right? Like if you're on Canva, how do you set the different pixels? If you are on like a different like platform, like your art, like image viewer on your computer, whether you are MacBook or you are Windows, just search, right? Like using that, how do I resize the image? The schemes of the mark scheme, you can find it in the NAIC booklet. So this is just whatever that's written in the mark scheme is as much information that we'll be able to provide to you. We wouldn't be telling you more details on how exactly, like, do I give 1 mark here or 2 marks there? Those are the criteria that the judges will be giving marks on. What if the image doesn't become what we want, even though we are super detailed? I guess that's your skills, right? That's the whole point of the competition. You want to try out different ways to get it to the idea that you want. So you may want to try out different tools. If ChatGPT cannot achieve it, can you use DALL-E? Can you use some other, like, can you use Google Gemini? Does it get there? Can you use like Canva to then edit it? So this is the whole point, right? Like, you need to be creative in terms of fixing whatever that is not what you want. Yeah, can negative and positive picture of sustainability environment combine? We do not have any kind of restrictions on what you want to show. You can choose to show one, you can choose to show both, you can choose to show both together. You can decide as long as you explain clearly how you got there, what is your inspiration, and how it ties to the theme of sustainability. Where can you find the booklet? The booklet has been emailed to you as part of your team registration confirmation. So do check your email. If you do not have that, it means that you have either typed in the email wrongly during your registration, or you may not have registered properly. If you do not have it, check it with your teammates, because at least one of them would have registered for it correctly, right? We'll be able to update your email for future emails after that if you email us at naic@hyperbyte.ai. I'll type it in the chat right now for any changes in the email. So let's say you swap out a team member and you don't have the booklet, please email naic.hyperbyte@ai. We wouldn't be able to send you emails from the past, so please get them from your team members. And I've also shared the link to the booklet in the chat as well for whoever that needs it. But if you lose the link, just go back to the email and you'll be able to find it again. If you want to know the judging criteria, you can go to page 12. And if you want to know what is the pixels, you can go to page 11. It is 5961 times 3508 pixels as the minimum. So if you go to the submission form on Google Form, the process diagram has a specific field that you need to have to upload in that part. So it shouldn't be in your art. When you upload your art, there should only be the art. When you upload the process diagram, it should only be the process diagram. So when you upload your artwork, it needs to be like in a art form, right? Like JPEG and things like that. And then for your process diagram, save it as a PDF, upload it. Okay, it feels that like we have answered all the questions. So I guess this is the end of the session. Jack, do you have like note taking or something you need to do?
Yeah, Kaisong. So thank you, Kaisong. So before we end, can everyone do me a favor? Just everyone open your camera and we take a good photo. Is that okay? Hi, thank you so much. So please turn on your camera and we will take a good photo right now. Just 10 seconds. Just open up your camera. Thank you. Okay, so we will take the photo in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. One moment. Don't close it yet. One moment. Okay. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. And this will be the end of our session. So thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.